Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you so much for showing up. We are excited to have our collector spotlight this Tuesday morning. And joining me, April Honey, behind the Light.Art account, is our co-host Paul. And we are excited to have a guest co-host with us today, Fidel, joining us from around the other side of the world. We're so grateful to have you. Hello, friends. How are you, Fidel? Welcome, welcome.
GMGAGGN. What's going
We're
on?
so grateful that you excited to have you and excited that you're joining us to co-host together with Paul in this Tuesday morning for us, but it is Tuesday evening for you. So thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Our pleasure. GM Paul.
GM, how's it going?
So good.
How we doing? Nice. Fidel, it's always amazing to hear your voice is so luxurious and so soothing. So thank you for blessing me today, brother.
You didn't tell me Paul was going to be here. I might have reconsidered.
Come on. Everybody said that. What is happening here?
Oh man, just play it, brother. Just play it.
Nice. How are you? How's everything? Good?
Yeah, doing well. Happy to be here. I'm looking forward to talking to some of these beautiful faces in this space, and I invited a whole bunch of folks, so it should be a good turnout.
Nice. Let's get Klutch up here. What's Klutch doing? Is he not up? There he is. Morning, Klutch.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Interesting, because on my phone it says I'm a listener. Oh, now it popped up. Okay, there we go.
Nice.
Well, GM Klutch, thank you for taking the time to be here. So grateful to have you here.
GM, thanks for having me. How's my mic? Is it too loud, too soft? What do you think?
All good, sir.
Thank you.
I would be remiss to not take a minute or two of the group's time to just so you can hear it from the mouth. Klutch, thank you so much for yesterday, for you and NorCal coming in and scooping up a piece that I'm obviously very proud of and love, but has been available for so long. So yeah, really honored that you two scoop this up, and thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
No problem. We are honored to collect it. Honestly, I have looked at that. I have revisited your Twitter profile to go click through to your work like so many times over the last 2 years. And you know what's funny? I always go to like as a collector, you always want to go to super rare first because you think this is the premier work and all this stuff. And then I would always go to super rare, and then I'd be like, but that one on foundation, that's like actually his best piece in my opinion. So, and then I would always go back to foundation, and I've just looked at it probably 20 plus times myself. Like, I really like this. I need to get this somehow, some way. And then, yeah, NorCal and I started talking about it, and I brought you up, and we were just like, you know, what do you think of Paul? He's got that Genesis piece that's sitting there. And then NorCal told me, like, yeah, I've went and looked at it so many times too. And then we were both like, no way. Like, okay, let's do this.
That is amazing. It is amazing. Humbling and extremely grateful to you both. And yeah, I guess as much as we talk about patience and being here and being active and being a person who is active and hoping to or not hoping to continue to create despite sales records and things like that. Like this is that piece sat there for 2.5 years. 2.5 years. So yeah, I'm extremely happy that it went to you guys. So thank you.
No problem. If anybody else really likes it too, he's got another one that's pretty similar. It's a little different angle of New York, and it's in winter, and it's also a very good piece. So just FYI.
Agreed. Paul has some amazing perspective. Congrats to NorCal Klutch and Paul. You guys are amazing. Beautiful piece. Some of my favorite views of New York come from Paul. He knows that. So thank you so much for being here. We're just so grateful for everyone taking the time. We're just going to jump right in and introduce our collector spotlight here with Klutch. Klutch is an experienced and successful Web2 founder. Klutch currently considers himself to be a dollar cost average investor in the NFT and has been collecting since summer of 2021. Klutch is a co-host of the NorCal and Klutch podcast and a member of the Tungsten DAO NFT Collective. He's a co-founder of the ClickCreate, and their goal is to help educate and onboard collectors who desire to collect the best digital art by the best digital artists. And together with me, we have co-hosting Paul and Fidel, our guest co-host. Fidel, we're so grateful to have you. Take it away.
All right. So I don't want to be an ass, but when I was asked to do this, I was given like a little schedule here to follow with questions and things like that. So I'm going to try to be as professional as I can because usually my spaces are just all over the place. So Klutch, man, I appreciate you and NorCal as well. Thanks for having me on as an interviewee a few months back. And I love what you're doing with the space. I want to start things off with my first question here that I was given. How did you get started in the crypto space? Let's start there.
All right, so I'm going to have to go back a little bit. I have an e-commerce company, and I have two partners. So we all own a third, basically, right? And when you're in that position, like those partners become some of your best friends. You're always talking about different investments and things over time. And I have one partner who is very much more risk on than me. And he was very much into Bitcoin quite early. And I was always like, gosh, that is so dumb. What are you doing? Like, it didn't make any sense to me way back in the day. And he's also the guy too. Like, you would go to Vegas, he'll just throw money at the table left and right. And I'm the guy who will lose $200 and be like, well, that was dumb. Let's go get dinner and do something else. And so we have a very different personality as far as risk goes. But he was always pushing me to like look into this. And I never did. And then, but he also loses interest. Like, he didn't become this diehard Bitcoin guy or anything like that. He got in it when it was pumping, and then when it started dumping through the cycles, then he got out, right? And then I feel like he did that in 2013. I feel like he did that in 2017. And if he would have just stayed committed, he'd probably be like sitting really pretty now. But he never did. He just got in on the pump side of it, trying to make quick money and then get out. Well, anyway, so that's how I got introduced to crypto. Was through him. But I never really believed in it much until it was during COVID. I remember I was watching CNBC or something. And it was they were talking about like how a lot of these stocks recently have gone crazy. And I got in on a few of them and did quite well myself. Like I was like, oh, Peloton's blowing up, I'm going to buy that, right? Or I bought some of these stocks from the vaccine companies, right? And like those like all 5x'd like over that year. And it was just like, okay, it was almost too easy. Like, it was just like, this was the easiest time I ever remember investing in my life. And I felt like really good about myself. I'm like, wow, I'm crushing it. Like, ooh, I bought Peloton, like the most obvious buy actually at the moment. But then one day, while I'm feeling like, wow, I'm crushing this, somebody on CNBC was like, yeah, you think that's going great, but you would have been much better off if you would have been in Bitcoin. In fact, Bitcoin is the single best investment of the last decade. And I was like, oh, it just hit me like a weight of bricks. Like, gosh, I just never opened my mind to it. And I lost that opportunity. And it was so frustrating to me in the moment. But I was like, all right, I'm going to dive into this. I'm going to get to know whatever this is, crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and I started just diving into it on Twitter and following all the crypto influencers and all that. And over time, I started trading a lot of crypto, and then I very quickly heard about NFTs. And NFTs were a thing where I was just like, I didn't trust that either at first, but I was like, I'm okay. I'm going to keep an open mind. And I vowed I'm going to like just watch NFTs for like 6 months before I invest in it. So I really educate myself on it. And it turns out I probably shouldn't have done that. I probably should have just bought a lot of stuff back then, but I didn't. But yeah, that's how I got into it, basically. And so it was all like over the last cycle as it was coming up, right? I started investing in crypto probably in late 2020 and all through 2021.
Thanks for answering that. I love that insight because I'm sure you're joining the 99% of us who kind of wish that we had gone with investing in something other than what we invested in. So don't feel too bad. I got a second question for you here. Kind of goes into the NFTs as well, shifting over from just getting into crypto. When did you, I guess there was a time period there between crypto and NFTs, but when did you actually start getting deeper into NFTs and picking up pieces? Was it like, as soon as you heard about them, how long did you wait? Like you said, you waited a little bit.
Yeah, I waited. Like, I remember looking at it very early 2021, but I just didn't do it. I wasn't really following the people on Twitter that were into it that much. Most of my info was probably following like crypto influencers, right? Like Keyboard Monkey and stuff like those guys who started getting in like very heavily over the summer. And it was over that summer of 2021 where I started like, okay, I'm going to go to OpenSea. I'm going to go look at these, and I was going to the rankings on OpenSea and just watching like everybody I got in NFTs to try to flip and make money. Right. Like, and so that's what I did. And I would just follow this and I would just see like some influencer would be like, hey, I bought this. And then 2 weeks later, and this was also while like Ethereum was pumping a little bit, right? So I remember like thinking like, man, these guys are like almost using NFTs as a leverage bet on crypto. Like this is so smart. Like, why am I not doing this? And so eventually I don't know. I probably had too many drinks on a Friday night and I was following something and I started just buying NFTs. I was like, screw it, set up the wallet, let's go. And I bought like, what did I buy? I bought like a Pudgy Penguin. I bought a fast food punk. I don't know. I was buying whatever was the floor thing that was pumping in the moment. And it felt like, amazing because you'd just be sitting on your couch. You'd be like, I remember telling my wife, oh my God, I bought this thing 2 hours ago for $4,000. Now it's worth $8,000. Like, and of course I didn't sell it, but I should have. Look at that. You didn't know, like I feel like I could recognize those moments of euphoria now 10 times better than I could back then. But I just thought everything was up only back then.
I think we all did.
Yeah, right.
I love this collector's perspective. I've got around 2,000 pieces myself, man, and I probably should have sold at least 1,500 of them. So I feel your pain. Also, man, shout out to the fast food punks. I had no idea anybody else ever picked up one of those, so that's funny too. But let's go forward. Speaking of, you talked about getting your eyeball on OpenSea for a bit and then moving around the top sellers and such. Now, at this point, what are some of your preferred platforms? What do you have your eyes on?
I don't really have one. I will say I don't really venture much off of Ethereum. I did some when I was investing in Pepe's, so I have some stuff on Counterparty. So that's basically on Bitcoin, but I never got into Tezos much. I know a lot of people told me like, you should, it's fun, it's cheap, you can collect a lot of art and feel like you're collecting a lot of art on the cheap. But I never did. And so I've just stuck with Ethereum for the most part. And on Ethereum, I would say I stick with the main things, right? Like if I find art, I'm finding art on Twitter mostly, like somebody sharing some artist, and I'll, if I see them a few times, eventually I'll follow them, and then I'll go and I'll dive in through their link tree, like see all their work, right? Like I go to their foundation or their Makerspace or their OpenSea or whatever, and I have no like preference. The one thing I don't like is when you got to go do this stuff where you got to bridge and all this stuff. Like, and this is one thing I think a lot of people could probably be more mindful of. Like me coming from an e-commerce background, I'm very much in the business where I want to eliminate like reasons why people wouldn't buy. Like the whole thing with e-commerce is you want to make your sales frictionless, right? It's got to feel easy. So you want nothing that's going to stop somebody from buying. And I feel like in this space, everybody's always kind of like, well, you should experiment. And it's great to experiment and blah, blah, blah. And like, just do this, do that, whatever. And it's fine because we're all new and nobody knows what's going to happen and all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But at the same time, if you're going to go post this on something where I got to go spend an hour learning how to buy it, I'm not going to waste my time personally. I'm just going to be like, all right, peace them out. So I have no preference of platform, but I do have a preference on ease, right? So if it gets too much out of my wheelhouse, I just won't spend the time.
I'm glad you touched upon that because I know there's a few collectors that I've been speaking to recently, including myself and including, NorCal and a few other guys. But I think that artists sometimes fail to have that work easily findable, even when you're in show posts or you're broadcasting. I've seen people have drops and such, and it put everything but a link or information on how to get there. So I'm glad that you voiced that for some of maybe the newer people in the space as well. If you could step outside yourself from an artistic perspective, from a person or a perspective of people coming into the space, though, would you give any suggestions on which marketplaces to link into when you're putting out work? Have you heard any advancements in those marketplaces that you like? Have you heard about, some of the ease with which people can drop work on different marketplaces? Like, what would a suggestion be for someone coming into the space and starting to begin to sell?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess I would probably start on, man, that's a really good question. I would probably stick to the basics myself. I would stick to foundation and maybe on your own contract via manifold or something like that. And then I would set up like a Deca probably, because I feel like Deca is going to become the best aggregator. They still have work to do. Like they don't have a lot of great 1155 support yet, which I get on them all the time because our whole ClickCreate project is 1155s. But I would probably do that. I would stick to foundation and manifold. And I would try to, if you can, avoid shared contracts because I think those are going to just go away. They're just kind of archaic. You could have your own. So I don't know why you would been done a shared contract, I guess. But, where no matter where you go, whether it's foundation or super rare or whatever, like the success you're going to have is going to be dependent on, honestly, your marketing of it, right? And your marketing of it is going to be on Twitter. So like you can make the best art in the world, but if nobody sees it, no, it's not going to sell. So how do you get people to see it? How do you add visibility to it? In e-commerce, we have a lot of ways, right? We go through social networks. We pay Google hundreds, if not millions of dollars, $100 a month, right? On Google ads. You could do a Facebook ads. You could do YouTube ads. You could do all these different things. But in this thing, all we have is pretty much Twitter at the moment. So I would probably not worry too much about where you spend your time, but I would worry more about building up your tribe of supporters who are going to be your friends and are going to help champion you also. So I think networking in the space is way more vital than wherever you're going to post or wherever you're going to put your work.
Love
That's
that.
awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I love that feedback. Thanks for that. Speaking of, community and networking and this massive side of things that a lot of people don't know coming into the space that they have to deal with, as artists and as even collectors. Who are some of the people that come to mind that you could say, are doing it right? Who are some of the artists or some of the collectors that some folks might want to start keeping an eye on, to figure out who's doing the things correctly? Fidel everywhere. What was that?
Well, I would definitely follow you guys for sure. But, if you're new, I would just follow a lot of people. Anybody who interests you, anybody with similar tastes as you too. Like that's how I started. I just started making friends. Like I remember I just started getting in DM groups with friends, and that's what I did. But if you want to learn how to do things right, I guess I would look at who's successful and then ask yourself why they are successful. So, being a part of ClickCreate, it's interesting because I get exposed to a lot of artists, and every week we have a drop. And it's funny because you very quickly realize how different each artist approaches a drop. Some come in ready to go. Like they have created behind the scenes content. They have some kind of storytelling aspect ready to go. You could look at people like ACK or Kath. They're always storytelling, right? Like, so it's adding this extra layer of like magic to their work because you feel like you're getting taken along on this ride, right? Of how they got there, how they're like Kath in China right now, right? She's a pretty good follow, right? It's like, yeah, I want to know how she's creating this art. And she's telling us every day. And I think that's really cool. And so now when that piece does come out, it's going to be much more interesting and desired than if she just minted it and said, hey, here's my new work, guys. Like it's a little bit less. And you could go further, right? So with anything in life, you get what you put into it, right? So if you just think I could mint and sell, I would say maybe, but it's going to be harder for you than if you do all the other things that are possible. So I would follow the people who have already achieved some level of success, find out what they're doing, watch how they promote, and then just start trying it. Try the things that you could be comfortable with. And you might find that I'm sorry, I have cleaners over, by the way. Can you hear this?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's not overpowering.
All right, let me text my wife real quick. Be like, hey, turn off the vacuums.
Is that who your cleaners is?
No. We actually have real cleaners, but they come twice a month. I got a pretty big house, so it would be too much work for us to clean it, I think. Anyway, so yeah, I would follow them and I would watch them, what they do. And then I would try to take little parts from them because this is how everybody gets successful in life, right? Like you try to mimic the people who already have achieved success and then tie it to what you do, right? And that can work no matter what you do, whether you're an artist, whether you are a founder of a project like ClickCreate, whether you are a salesperson, no matter whether you are a server at a restaurant, all these things, like the people who get the best tips, they get the best tips for a reason, right? Because they know how to talk to their people better, right? They develop relationships really well. And so I would just do that. Follow who you think are doing a good job and then try to use those things to your advantage.
It's interesting because I love that perspective of like looking at people who are successful, and or at least you see that they are putting in like an intentional effort, right? As opposed to just being like, well, it's Thursday and I haven't dropped a piece of art in, 3 months, so I might as well just do it now. And I feel like a lot of, and like you're talking about also building relationships, right? And so I feel like in the beginning, especially, there was this element of when your work was created that you would send physical art, or you would, um, artists would add another level of I don't know, thanks, or a token of gratitude, or it would be, we would want to reward our collector for, seeing value in us, and sending a print, sending, like I have a book, so for me, when someone collects, I like to send them a copy of my book, and so I'm interested to hear, like, what are your thoughts on artists rewarding collectors? Is it, obviously, if you're starting to collect a whole lot, you're not gonna have a whole lot of wall space, after a while, or you're gonna put something in rotation. What's your thought on that?
I'm sorry. I was trying to text my wife to get them to turn off the vacuums, which they've not done. Oh, what was the question?
Yeah, sure. So it's just kind of like, what's your thoughts on artists rewarding collectors as they collect? Like, if they're sending physical prints, or they're sending us some sort of token of appreciation, is that a welcome thing for you? Is that more kind of like, now I have, 30 framed images, prints or something like that I don't know where to put? And I've heard, we hear some people are like, I'm not really interested in that, and some people are like, yeah, send it, I love it.
Yeah, I love the extras, right? I get them a lot, so I get them both physical sent to me, and I get occasional airdrops for me in like a one-on-one collector or whatever. And I do think it's good. Like, you're building rapport with your collectors, and then those collectors, in turn, especially if they're larger names, they can help you a lot. They can GM post your art or something, or they can share your art more often. And then if they're sharing your art, it kind of like with any relationship, it kind of works like it's like symbiotic, right? Like, as a collector, I really appreciate when an artist tells me about another artist. Like, I almost put it on a higher pedestal than if I found it myself instantly, because I'm just like, whoa, Ruben Wu told me about this. Like, if he thinks this is good, it's probably pretty good, right? And I think the same works the other way too with collectors, right? Like, if a collector shares your work, that's a more well-known and respected collector, that's going to get other collectors are going to look at that too. Like, we all do this. Everybody does this, whether it's, conscious or consciously or not. If it could be anybody, it could be Protein Prosecco just goes and buys a piece. I will immediately just be like, whoa, okay, let's go see who this artist is. If I haven't seen the artist before, I will like almost automatically go do a deep dive, because I trust that collector's taste. They've built up a great collection now that I've seen over time, and I realize they have a lot of passion for this. So I will automatically go look at it. And so I feel like if you are doing little things like that, like little rewards and whatever, you're staying top of mind. And I think that's a very good idea. But I would do so with a budget. I would definitely not. You don't need to give away or spend a lot of money to do something like that, right? You still got to be mindful of your own finances, and you're here. If you're an artist, you're here to sell art, I assume, and to make a little money on your art. And so I do feel like some artists, like, it's cool, they want to go and buy other people's art, or they want to give away a lot, but then they might be struggling financially, right? So if you're going to do it, I would say do it with a budget, but it is very good to do.
Yeah, that's That's great advice. And I really I liked what you said also about the if you see someone purchasing something, you're gonna especially a collector who you respect in the space, you're gonna do a deep dive on. And it's kind of like where artists also have, we hear collectors talking about, I'm going to do a deep dive into the artist, and to see what has he done, what has he or she done, in in the space throughout their career or whatever. If you're going to make that level of investment into an artist, and then it's really interesting to think like that collectors, now we're at a point where collectors have their own kind of I don't know how to say it, like a provenance of activity, right? That they've collected, and they've collected artists that are of the same ilk. So it's interesting to hear. I don't know that I've ever heard that perspective before, and so I appreciate that. That's really cool.
Yeah, no problem. It's like, I mean, look at Fidel. It's got 2,000 pieces, right? Like, if that's the other thing too. Like, if you are a collector, I really think you should be mindful that you are also a brand, or can be, right? Like, within this space. And I think if you want to support your artists that you believe in, you have that ability. So, but you gotta embrace it too, right? Like, you could go, and there's a lot of art that gets sold, and it's sold to some person that's basically almost anonymous, and you're like, oh, this person just owns the artwork, right? And that's cool, that's great. Somebody who loved the art bought the art, and that's great. But if you're an artist, I'm sure you'd much rather it be somebody who, also is a brand or a name in the space, right? So I would just say, if you are a collector and you're starting out, when I started out, I was a nobody too, right? So I would say, be mindful of that, and maybe go chase that a little bit, because if you can develop a name as a collector, that will help your artists even more. It's like, I just keep saying, it's like a symbiotic relationship. Like, the people who are here helping build, who are talking on Twitter every day, those are the people who, you could call them influencers, I guess. I mean, I never thought I would be an influencer, but I guess at this point I gotta say I somewhat am in this space. But like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I used to think that was a dirty word. Like, I was like, oh, these are just shysters. They're just trying to rug me and all this stuff. But over time, I've realized you can actually be an influencer for good. And I think that's one thing I would recommend to people, to collectors in the space. If you really love this, if you really believe in the art and the technology and think we are living in a digital renaissance, which is basically what I feel like, then you can do more, and you can contribute more to this space that will help it get to its final destination.
Fantastic words, man. And I agree with everything you just said, so it must be right. I also, man, I love how you answered the questions with such ease, because these are the kinds of questions that a lot of people don't want to answer, because that fear of, giving their opinion to hundreds of different strangers in the space. Everyone feels like everything has to be correct now. You can't just give your opinion and let folks take it as true or false. But I like that you use different perspectives and the experiences you've had here so far. Speaking of which, next question: do you collect outside of Web3?
I do. That's where I started collecting art. I used to go on, before I had kids, I would go on a lot of like nice vacations overseas and all these things with my wife. And we would always just find, like, I remember being in Italy, and we went to, what's the place? Positano, right? And you go there, and they have this nice little walkway that goes up the hill, and then there was a gallery. And we walked in that gallery, and there was just amazing art in there, tons of it. And granted, you're just kind of in a touristy area, right, for Italy. but the art was still, to me, amazing. Granted, I did not know anything about any of the artists in there because most of them were kind of local to Italy and that local region. And so what did we do? We wanted to buy a piece that was memorable to us, that would remind us of this beautiful vacation we had. You know, this was actually for our honeymoon back in the day. And so we just bought art we loved. And that's all we did. Like when I bought trad art, and I bought a lot of trad art over the years, I never once bought it thinking like, I'm going to flip this. Not once. Not a single time did I think like that. I never participated in the Sotheby's stuff. And a lot of those people, I think, are probably thinking like that to some degree. But me, I never bought trad art thinking about flipping. I bought it because I loved it. And then as I collected NFTs over time, and I slowly moved away from any sort of flipping mentality to I just want to collect what I love mentality. And maybe someday some of this stuff I can sell for more, right? Like I've always told Drift, like I own one of his Where My Vans Go. I'm like, I love it, dude. I'm never going to sell it unless it can buy me, you know, a house on the Pacific Ocean. Then I'm probably going to sell it, buddy. but until that point, I'm not going to sell it. I'm just buying stuff I love. And that's how I started my journey. I just slowly over time bought a traditional art piece while we were on vacations. And we probably have, I don't know, maybe 30 pieces around the house that are like pretty substantial trad art pieces on the walls. But they're almost all bought on vacation.
That's so cool. I got a follow-up question for that. So you've had your experiences in trad art. What out of the percentage of the pieces that you've bought prior to Web3, how many of those artists have you been able to have a relationship with, or at least speak to, or get to know the story behind it? As you said, like you're walking through Positano and you just kind of walk into a gallery and you're like, oh my gosh, and that's the piece from the trip, right? Has there been, so is there a difference Web3 wise relationally that you've experienced?
Yeah, definitely, right? Like when you go into these galleries, like, okay, so I bought a lot of art in Lahaina, which, sucks because now the whole place burnt down, right? But they had great galleries there. Granted, it's touristy, but I didn't really care, right? Like a lot of people say like, oh, it's touristy gallery and all this shit, right? Like they'll put down people like Vladimir Kush or Peter Lick. And I own work for both of them. And it's like, I don't care that it's touristy. Like it's still good art to me. So who cares, right? Like they built these huge empires. Good for them. I'm happy for them. I hope everybody could build a huge empire for themselves. But yeah, you never really got a chance to meet them, right? Like I remember one time I met Vladimir Kush. He was at one of the galleries, but it was very quick. It was like, like I didn't really develop a real relationship with him. It's not like we became friends. It was just we chatted about art for like 15 minutes and like that was it. And then as you walked away, there was no like, hey, I'll DM you on Twitter later or something. Like that didn't exist, right? Like none of that existed. And so yeah, I have a lot of pieces by a lot of great trad art, and I don't talk to a single one of those artists. Not at all. But here, I feel like half of you guys are like some of my best friends in the space. I've met so many of you at NFT events now multiple times, right? So, and each time it feels just great. Like we're just developing a relationship a little bit more and we're becoming a little bit better friends. And I enjoy that. Like, I feel like we're all here. We're all on the same boat. We're all rowing in the same direction and we all have similar interests. So it all feels very natural. And like these people are actually real friends. And I think that's really cool.
I love that. that's kind of what I was working at. But yeah, I'm glad that like I like to like to see if the sentiment is the same. It's just we are, as creators, we are a community, but now we've become a fuller community because now we have, a direct line to people who are appreciators of art and supporters of art, and we can access and just sometimes you just want an opinion or questions, and it's another way, like you were talking about before, to cultivate a path to success, and relationship as well, which I think is incredibly important.
I mean, don't you find it cool too, Paul? Like most artists don't get that either. They
Right.
literally just like, I just sold my thing off into the ether, but I'm still like, I don't now have a friend or a supporter who's going to go champion me, like what often happens in this space, right? That's
Right.
really cool.
Yeah.
But Travis, they don't have that. You have no idea. They're just like, I'm gonna go throw it on my wall, and then that's it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's really like invaluable, because then you have someone in your corner, and like, there's nothing more wonderful than for me when someone collects, to be able to send them a note, like a heartfelt note, and like have a conversation about it and say, thank you. Like, obviously I've had some times where I've sent a note like, oh, I saw that you collected this. This was so great. Thank you so much. And like, you get no response. But the ones that you feel like, oh, this is like a more of a relationship, growing opportunity than a transaction. I think that's what separates, Web3 from trad art, in such a beautiful way.
When it's done right, though, I have to be devil's advocate and jump in and say when it's done right. When it's done wrong, and you get that double-edged sword effect where artists or collectors or who have it in the space has that ease with which to, get into your DMs or hassle and start to feel like they want to run your career. I think then, I kind of like the trad art thing where you never have to talk to them again. It depends. It depends.
Yeah, that's true. But those collectors who like do that, I don't know. Me, I just tell them, get lost, buddy, because like, like it's one thing to go to them and ask, like, what do you think about this? And I encourage every artist to do that. Like, if you're going to have a drop or whatever, and you're not sure about how you're going to do it or whatever, and if you want to reach out to people, like, you should definitely do this, right? You should, like in anything in life, it's best to go get advice from others quite often. But if anybody's trying to tell you what to do, like, you don't even want them as your collector, to be honest. Like, screw that. I've never once went to an artist and been like, hey, what are you doing? You should go do this. Like, but I can't even imagine doing that. Like, it doesn't even cross my mind to do that, because it's like, first of all, I got my own shit I got to worry about, right? Like, I got to worry about what I'm doing at ClickCreate or whatever. I can't worry about your career. Like your career's on you, buddy. Like, good luck. I appreciate you. I support your art, but like, you got to own it yourself, buddy, because nobody's going to give it to you. You gotta take it yourself, right? Like, so that's how I look at it.
Yeah, that is great. That's great advice. So speaking of which, you just mentioned, like, you got your own stuff going on, and your plate is full, as a collector, and then as a business owner. How are you balancing, like, and you can get as in depth or as hands off as you want to this question, but how do you balance your family, your business, your collecting, your community, outreach or support, and just being, generally always here, how does that balance, what does that balance look like for you?
For me, I try to just play to my strengths, right? I know what I'm pretty good at and where I lack. I also I do know what my time commitments are, right? Like, I have 2 young boys. I have a 1 and 4-year-old boy. So it's like, they need a lot of time. I have a wife. I have friends and family. I am not going to negate any of those responsibilities. I am going to focus on those. Those are way more important to me than this space will ever be, to be honest. But I do love this space, right? Like this space is like my favorite hobby at the moment, right? So I've spent a lot of time over the last year, I would say, getting myself in a position where I feel like I'm going to be more successful. So I have an e-commerce company, and for the most part, I've ran the thing for 15 years, right? So it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of people, like, and I did realize, like, okay, do I really want to run this thing the day in, day out of that thing every day, all day, after I've been doing it for 15 years? And in the last year, I decided, you know what? I kind of want to just be like the CEO who steps away a little bit and can go become like the chairman of the board guy. So I made that decision. I went and hired a CEO, which has opened me up a lot more time to now actually spend more time in this space, because I do believe in this space and I want to spend some real effort growing things like ClickCreate. And I also help my friends in the space grow quite a bit, right? Like, I want to be there for other people who need me quite often. And so in order to do that, you have to just find the time. And in order to do that, you got to set your priorities, right? So I've lowered my priority levels on my main business. I put somebody else in charge. So now I can kind of just show up to the most important things. And then I have put my kids, my oldest son, into preschool, so that helps quite a bit, open up time. And my wife, luckily, is a stay-at-home mom, so that affords me a lot of opportunity to devote a lot of time here. And within ClickCreate, we have hired a lot of great people. Like, so when you're building a project, you have two choices, I feel like. You can do the bare minimum, which a lot of projects do. They honestly do. Or you can try to, be better than them. And when I built my e-commerce company, I didn't build it to be like, it didn't become successful because I was doing the bare minimum. I was always like, how do I kill my competitor? And that's always how I approached it. If a new competitor came in, honestly, I just wanted to kill him. I was like, I'm gonna whoop your ass, and that's what's gonna happen. And that afforded me 15 years of growth. Like, never grew every single year for like 15 years straight. And so I kind of like have that experience from Web 2 that I feel like, I can do that here too. I can be better than my peers. But if I want to do that, I'm gonna have to find the time to do it. And I'm gonna have to find ways to be better. And so, yeah, I've made myself more time. We've brought in great talents. Like, we brought in, the whole ClickCreate team is amazing. Like, we have multiple people on socials. We have a Discord mod who's, I think, one of the best in the business. We have great videographers. These are all things that I honestly do not have the skills to probably be great at. But I know these people are great at it. And so we brought them on because we think they are going to help us grow this thing to be something much bigger down the road. And that's where Norcal and I look at something like ClickCreate. Obviously, we were all in a bear. But like any cycle, the bull eventually comes back around. So we just think, do we just sit here on our hands waiting for the bull and doing the bare minimum? Or do we actually try to outcompete our competitors right now? And we chose the latter. Did I answer your question, or
that was it, man. You answered it and then some. No, thank you. Yeah, that's great. I mean, and I think also as artists, that's also like, we need to have that mentality as well. Like, it's a hard enough place, and we have to, we're always being stretched to different areas, whether it's, selling this or offering workshops or, creating a presence online. And which platform is the right platform for me online to, show my art and to create a community. So it's when you see a common thread through someone who may not do what you do, but appreciates what you do, there's a congealing element, I think, that helps the community, and especially the endeavors that you and NorCal are, searching after with ClickCreate. It's great.
Yeah, I think it's all about just finding your own balance too, right? Like, obviously, being an artist is very different than being a founder of something like ClickCreate. It's two totally different things, but everybody's going to make their choice of what they're going to spend their time on every day. And I remember when I was trying to be a crypto trader, like, it was crazy. To be a good crypto trader, you have to like sit there and watch charts 24/7. You wake up in the middle of the night and because you got to go to the bathroom or something. And your first inclination is not, I better go to the bathroom. It's, shit, let's pull up the charts, right? And like that, like, I became very self-aware of that. And I was just like, wow, this is incredible. Like, this is such a time suck. Am I happy doing this? And I very quickly realized I was not happy at all. I was like, this sucks. I don't want to do this. And that's when I switched to be like, okay, this is not what I really want to do here. I can make the choice to not do that here. I can just make the choice to go to become, well, at that time I was like, I really believed in this digital renaissance thing that we're in. So I was like, I'm going to just become this dollar cost averaging NFT investor. This was before I ever got even thought about building ClickCreate. But you can make choices that, lead to your happiness or your unhappiness. And you just got to be self-aware of which choices are leading to which. And if you are, I think you could put yourself on a better path mentally.
Yeah, absolutely. So last question. Then if you have time for a couple of questions, if anybody wants to come up, they can probably start to request or something. But you have a unique perspective. We have a great opportunity here to ask you, as someone who's running a community right in this space. Is there anything that you see that Light.Art and Llamo Art can be doing to continue to support collectors and artists at this time that you feel like maybe you haven't seen us do yet, or just like share your perspective on what you see this group doing?
That's a good question. It's tough. It's something we battle with at ClickCreate too, right? Like, I think we all know, like, right now it feels like, what are we short on? We're short on probably collectors, right? So, and all of us, meaning Llamo Art, ClickCreate, whatever, we're all very art focused, right? I feel like I could look at this whole group of people listening here. We are all on the art side. Sure, we all like the degen a little bit and here and there, but almost all of us are focused on the art side. And so that's what we ask ourselves at ClickCreate too. Like, how do we get more people to the art side? Because we think it's actually better. Like, we think this is a less stressful way to collect NFTs. You're buying something you actually like, not just something that is some momentum play in the moment. When you buy things you like, you tend to have less worry about value swings in the short term. So then, since you're not paying attention to that as much, you actually will find yourself a happier person, because you're not constantly doing the math in your head that, well, shit, I'm down $200 or whatever, right? Like, the money is such a stressor it's the number one stressor for like pretty much everybody in the world, probably, right? Like, it just, even me to this day, I'm like, how do I get my family to a position where I literally can never work again and never give a shit again, right? Like that would be really cool. I think everybody wants that, right? And I don't have that myself. So I'm always like thinking, how do I get there, right? But I do know if I spend too much time thinking about money, I'm actually become unhappy and I become a slave to it. And so I think you got to find balance. And what that looks like for Light.Art or Llamo art, I feel like you guys are doing good. I mean, you guys do a lot. You guys go and promote artists. You guys put on spaces. You guys do events. You guys do a lot to help promote artists. But I think we're still early. I think most of the volume probably for the foreseeable future will still be degenning. And frankly, it's probably a good thing because that means people are buying art they love and they're not flipping it. If you look at the average art project, it's got very low secondary volume. It's just a fact because people are usually buying for the art. Whereas if you look at the average latest PFP that looks like shit, but it's pumping in the moment, it's got tons of volume, right? That's because nobody gives a crap. They're just like, whatever. I just bought this guy and I'll sell it tomorrow. And so I think we all have to realize where we are in this moment. We are very much still early. And I believe the space, personally, I believe the space is going to be huge. I think it's just very early. It's like, but you think about like the average collectible in the world. I don't know how much you guys collect outside of this, right? But there's a million choices you can make when you're collecting. You can make fine whiskeys, fine wines, baseball cards, or any sports cards for that matter. You could collect, my wife, she likes to collect purses. Expensive hobby, let me tell you. Cars. Good friends with Artifaction. This guy collects a lot of cars. Even more expensive hobby, right? And you think about all those markets, they're all far bigger than we are right now. Way, 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 way bigger. Like, like exponentially bigger than us practically. Like they're huge. And then you think about what is the barrier to entry in those markets? It's actually higher than ours. Ours it's got some issues where you got to educate people to onboard them with MetaMask and all this stuff. But once they're in, like it's really quite easy. Whereas like the marketplace for cars, how you're going to basically buy a car in your local area, or you're going to go to an auction or something, and then you got to ship it, and there's all this stuff. Like, I just think the way this technology is all aligned for basically a global marketplace in the future, I think it's got far more potential than any other collectible on planet Earth. So that's why I believe it. But I think you're doing a good job at Llamo art and Light.Art. I just think we got to just keep doing it, right? And eventually when the bulls come back, and the people come back. I mean, if the market starts getting hot again, people will come back in droves, right? Because they all want to make money again. But then when they're here to make money, we just got to educate them. Like, there's more to this than flipping, guys. So I would just say that is my recommendation. But I think you guys are already doing it.
Awesome. Thank you. Do you have a couple minutes to take a few questions?
I do. Yeah, let's go.
All right. Okay. Awesome. So Abraham behind the scenes just texted me the order because I was about to be like, I have no idea who came up first.
I was going to jump in. And,
yeah, please do. Please, thank God.
Yeah, thank you for that, Klutch. We appreciate that, and we appreciate the opportunity to join with the ClickCreate group and the Shriller group and continue to expand because we believe in what you believe. And I think that we're we're better together. And so we're so honored for your wisdom, and thank you for sharing so much that benefits not just artists but collectors, and we are a little bit of both, as you said, a little degen and a little bit of artistry is our heart, but a little bit of both, I think, as we grow and develop. So thank you for that. And moving on to Q&A, if you have a burning question, please request to come up. Klutch is making some time specifically for us to answer any questions that you may have. I think first up we have Cece. Hi, Cece. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming up.
Hi, guys. Thank you for bringing me up. It is an incredible discussion. I hope everyone is doing fine. And Klutch, it's really nice to meet you. I think the spaces are really important to get to know collectors better, because I think collectors don't have enough appreciation in the space still. So those are incredible, especially for someone who's an artist. We literally sponge everything like that. So my question to Klutch, and I mean for basically any collector, would be, is that what is the philosophy behind your collecting? Do you collect from the same artist twice, or you say, okay, I've collected, it's a check mark, so I move on to the next artist, and I'm kind of like, okay, I don't really gonna follow the journey of this artist. And the reason I'm asking is because I've been to a similar space long ago, and someone who was a collector said that, yeah, I don't really follow up with artists anymore. I just know that I can collect their art. Like let's say I put notice for them, right? And I hunt them down. And once I collect their work, I kind of, I check mark it and I move on. Because I know a few collectors, and I appreciate their approach of appreciating me. Like, for example, there's Kato in the listeners, and he's a great collector, and I've been blessed enough to be collected by him twice. And I know his philosophy is that I think it doesn't matter how many times he will collect from the same artist, but as long as they're decent human beings and they're genuine with their art, and he likes the work, he will collect it. So I just wanted to know how you do it. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question. I definitely will collect multiples by an artist. I would say I've done that more times than not, actually. It's just Abraham on this hosting this, right? I own 2 one-of-ones from you, I believe.
That's right.
Yep. And that's just one example, right? And it depends on the artist too. If Grant Yoon, for example, I own a lot of editions from Grant, but that's just because with him, you can make a choice, right? You can collect one-of-one, or you could collect, I don't know, a couple hundred editions. So I'm the guy who will just go and be like, I'd rather collect editions and spread the love around more than spend the big money. But I'm very much the same. I want to make sure the people are nice and good people, and they're still here and they're working hard. I think I love this time period, actually. A lot of people, it's added a lot of stress for a lot of people. I hate that for people, but for me personally, it's given me this kind of filter that I now can really see who is here, who is committed. There are a lot of people who are great artists there are some who are even crowned top tier, and they just disappeared. And let me tell you, that people notice. So that tells you a few things, right? Maybe they got burnt out. And if that's true, hopefully they come back at some point, tell their story about why they disappeared. But maybe it was, money's not easy here anymore, so I'm going to go do something else. And then to me, that's a red flag, because that means you're not here actually for the art. You don't actually love the art. It's just the vehicle for money for you. Well, at ClickCreate, we do a big spaces every month where we announce all the new artists, and I get to interview them. And what I've found is a lot of people who are still here, they were artists long before NFTs. They've been, the starving artist for like 10 plus years now. And to me, that's actually a great sign. That's a sign that that artist actually loves making art. Like, it's their passion. And so, yeah, those are people I tend to believe in more than somebody who just maybe gets lucky, gets crowned as some top tier artist, and then just disappears. But I'll definitely collect multiple. And in fact, I try to, because I like to support the artist too. Like if I'm collecting your work, I now want to help you succeed, because I really think I can do that. So I try to do that.
Klutch dropping extreme knowledge, sir. I don't know if they're ready for all that. I don't know if they're ready.
I mean, you do it too. I've seen you. You like.
What is it? I'm the black kettle calling the pot. What the pot of the whatever the hell that saying is? Yeah, I do it all the time. You're exactly right, and I'm not going to make this space about me. We're highlighting your wonderful career right now, but I agree with that so much that there are a lot of people who feel that the person in the space is the direct representation of the person as a whole. If someone takes quote unquote a week off from the space, they were never about it. And if someone comes into the space, for a week full, they're like, oh, they're the best at the space. They must know what's going on. So you're very right about people not realizing the background of a lot of artists and collectors in this space. People have been doing it 10, 20, 30 years. The space, ladies and gentlemen, and again, I don't want to steal this microphone, but listen to me when I tell you this. This space is just another form of doing the thing that we were all doing already. We were all already upping and downing, sailing and failing. We were all already collecting and spending money, treasuring art and treasuring pieces. For those who weren't already doing that and have like a 1 month limelight in this space, be careful. Be careful following those accounts, and be careful listening to the moves they make and the things they tell you to do. That's all I'm going to say. 100% in agreement.
Plus the best collectors, I mean, like, they're consistent, right? Like Bat Soup Yum, for example. He's just consistently here, consistently supporting artists. I've been lucky enough to meet him a few times. He is like the salt of the earth guy. I mean, you can all go look at what he spent on art and realize, you know what? He's pretty well off, right? But if you just met him at a bar, you would think he's the nicest, coolest guy ever who you just want to be friends with. And most of these people are that way. And I've been privileged to meet a lot of them, like damn near all of them, to be honest. And the people still here right now, like, they're really good people, the collectors and artists together. So I think we're in good company at the moment.
Amazing. I don't need to say anything else. You guys just absolutely crushed it. Cece, did Klutch answer your question? You feel good? You feel confident?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much for responding to my question. It was a great answer, because for artists that always show up here every day, it is really important not to be invisible, after, like, let's say, like, just one-time sale and that's it. Sometimes we don't really need the sale, but we just need interaction, and we need to see that those who collect from us, they did it because they appreciated the art, and not just like, oh, hey, to, I guess, promote their own name. But this is really important. And thank you so much for responding to this question and for hosting this space, guys. You're all awesome.
Nice. Thank you for coming. Okay, so next, I'm going to crush this name, so I apologize. Jewel.
Hi, Paul.
Please forgive me. I'm an idiot, and I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. You can call me Gül or G. Doesn't matter, Paul.
Oh, this is terrible. Julio's just totally
Thank you.
razzing me down below in the comments. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's okay. Hi, Paul, Fidel, Light.Art family, and Klutch, all friends. I want to say first, it's a great feeling for me to be an artist from the Light Artist family from the very beginning. And I love the way you support artists all the time in different ways. And Clutch, I want to ask you a question if you don't mind. um, I think not only artists but also collectors need to feed themselves about art in this field. What do you feed yourself about art, books, movies, museums, gallery visits? Who are the especially traditional artists you are most influenced by in the history of art? Or is there a specific name, and is there an underlying philosophy? I mean, is there a work or an artist that you think about a lot? I mean, we like a work or art, but I think there is a reason for it. It could be philosophically or psychologically, or because it's close to our experiences in life. Which one is yours? I wondered because our preference, our representation, ourself, or was there a specific event that you look at art more carefully? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for your question. I would say, okay, so educating myself. When I started getting into art heavily, and just I basically don't even buy a PFP anymore. It doesn't even cross my mind. I have one I want to get, and it's like a CryptoPunk someday. But outside of that, I pretty much only look at art now. And I talk about art a lot with a lot of people. I joined Tungsten DAO, which is a collective of a lot of artists and a lot of collectors. We used to be a lot more active in the Bull than we are now. But back in the Bull, we would have a lot of conversations. And we would talk about different things about art. And I've had a lot of private conversations with Vince Van Doe, for example. And we've talked about how a lot of people can say I'm this great, knowledgeable person about art. And in the trad art world, there's this kind of it almost feels like there's this gateway. You got to reach some kind of educational level to command some level of respect to speak on the topic of art. And this is one thing we've talked about in Tungsten DAO, is that should that be there? Because to be honest, as much as we are all grinding here on Twitter every day, looking at art every day, we've probably seen more art pieces in the last year than 99.9% of the world will see in the next 10. So we are grinding art to a degree. We're just grinding different art, right? We're grinding the new digital art. This is the new wave, right? And most of the trad art people have no idea what we're doing here because they're still looking at whatever, Monets, Seurat's, whatever. But we're paving our own path here. So I have attempted to read a lot about art. I remember one time Grant Yoon posted some picture on Twitter about how he bought a new art book. And then I was immediately like, okay, I should do that. And then I went to Amazon and I bought 10 art books. And then I very quickly combed through 3. And then I was like, the other 7 I probably never touched. So, but I also feel like I am grinding art all day, every day. And am I inspired by trad art? Yes, I definitely am. Like I very much still love to go to museums and see the famous pieces that I've learned about as a kid growing up, because I loved art as a kid. And you get, when you're growing up and you learn about the basics of art history, you learn all the basics about all the basic trad art pieces that everybody knows about, right? Like by the most famous artists. Um, if I had to choose one that was a favorite, I would say probably the Sunday Afternoon one by George Surratt. And I don't know why, but I just remember as a kid, I always loved it. He had this, I don't know how many, you're all artists. You probably all know this stuff. But like he has this pointillism technique, right? That's like pretty unique. And as a kid, I thought that was really cool. So I've always now, throughout my life, carried that love for that piece forward. And I didn't love like some of the deeper, darker stuff. Maybe say like, I don't know, even Van Gogh, let's say. He had some periods where he went pretty dark, right? And then I didn't love that stuff. I liked his brighter stuff. And so I don't know. I feel like art can be this thing where we can limit it, and we could try to limit it. We could try to gateway it, but I don't think that's a good idea, because everybody loves different art. Everybody. I see some people like skulls and things. Like, I'm not into that. And that's fine. That could be great work, right? Like, I love ACK as an artist. I think he's a great guy, very talented, but I'm not the skull guy, So like, that's just not me. And that's fine, right? I can be other things. I probably like photography more than the average person. I like animation a lot. I like illustration a lot. And so I feel like we got to just be open and accepting of everybody's tastes, because that's what, we're trying to build this huge ship that's going to carry us off to this more promising place. And I think if you're always critical, there's like people who like to go on Twitter and start fights and shit, right? Because they think like, oh, this will give me engagement and all this crap. And like anybody could do that. It's like a cheap, easy hack to get great engagement if you want. Just go start a fight with somebody. And it's public, right? But like that's not my thing. I'm just not that person. I'm just like, I'd rather try to work with others to get more eyes on everybody in this space. And I think that becomes, I think the way you do that is you just be open and accepting towards all tastes, all levels of education. And then we should add education to this space too. There's a lot of us who do it to a degree.
Can you hear me?
Oh, now I can hear.
Oh, it got right.
I
Oh,
can
We're
thank
back.
hear
God.
you.
Yay. Yay. Just wait it
Yes.
out, everybody. Just wait it out. It's all good. It's all good. We're
Sorry,
okay.
sorry.
I don't know
I
whose fault that was, but
Oh, it got right.
sorry.
We're back.
I don't know why, but I can't hear you, and I can't. Your last, I can't hear your last words. Sorry about that. I don't know why,
yeah, I
but
think we
thank
all had
you.
a.
Sorry, guys. We have no idea what just happened. It just sort of froze. And I was chatting with Paul. I think he froze as well. So it just happened to everybody. We don't know why. Sorry about that. Clutch, so sorry. We don't know what happened.
Oh man, Klutch, I was like halfway through your like inspired thought about adding education to the space, and then like I stopped hearing and I started going frantic. I was like, oh my god, I'm missing out this like gold nugget that I've been like waiting for. So I'm glad it's all figured out.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, what happened?
It all got rugged.
I
We all
thought that
got
I'm
caught.
rugging.
I thought I was rugged too. And then
I actually got kicked.
Oh, Fidel, I'm sorry. I had no idea.
No, yeah.
It's a
I'm
full
glad
rug.
we're back. But I agree. I'd love to hear about education in the space. I think that's where I got kicked. So I'd love for you to finish that thought process.
yeah, so basically I would just say we need to educate more. Like if we're going to onboard people into art, this is kind of what we're trying to do at ClickCreate, right? Like we have people like Sarah Lindsay, we have Unknown Collector who we brought on to create educational tweet threads, to create educational spaces. Spaces like this, I think, are very good to help people learn in the space because it's, you're kind of a slave to your algorithm a bit on Twitter. And if you're just always following what it's showing you, it's just going to show you whatever you're engaging with. And maybe you're not engaging with stuff that's actually going to help you learn because it's just like mindlessly scrolling Instagram or Facebook or whatever, right? Like it's whatever you pause on is going to be like, okay, that's what they're into. So they're going to keep showing that. But educational content in and of itself, if you're just scrolling through Twitter or Instagram, is not the thing people pause on normally unless it's a really good tweet thread that captures attention. So I would say we all got to just try to be a better job being educators, but also do it in a way that grabs attention because it is an attention economy here. And if we want to get more people collecting art, I just feel like that's what we just have to be mindful of it and we have to do it. And we're not going to be great at it today. We are all very new. But it's kind of like the whole 10,000 hours theory. We might be great at it a couple of years from now, but we don't get great at it without practicing today.
Well, that was really well said. Thank you for running that back for us because I know that we're all happy that we got a chance to hear that, and it's definitely something I feel like we all feel that same way. So if we're all kind of collectively thinking that, and we're making efforts and strides toward that, and you guys are at ClickCreate, and your team is finding ways to do that in a way that's accessible and understandable on multiple levels, then we're going to be in good shape for sure. I wanted to ask Chris if he had another question, or I know that you've been up here, so I want to give you an opportunity to ask Klutch your question.
Hey, thank you, Paul. And thanks for the whole group and everybody who's put this conversation together. Light.Art and Llamo Art and Fidel, Klutch, thank you, and everybody in the conversation that's been adding value to it and bringing up points of view. I just want to say first, I love the like kind of I just got this like sense of inspiration of kind of like seeing myself in a few years forward on the trajectory that I've been on. Hearing some of what you're up to, Klutch, and the way you approach it. So I've been in this space for a little bit, but mostly I used to do something totally different a long time ago. I used to be an aircraft mechanic, and then I got into art. But while I was an aircraft mechanic, I was always chasing art. And when I decided to make this transition over, I wanted to first kind of go study. I was like, I know I just foundationally need to get some like mathematics down, because if I want to go and do anything with computers, like I want to have like a little bit more understanding of like, what is it doing? Like, I don't want it to just do things. I want to know like, how does a processor work? How does memory work? Like, how does AI sort of create an imagination of like what our reality is like, to try to figure out what the answers we're looking for. Like, and so little by little, I went studying into that, and then I started doing video with the knowledge of computers. I started kind of just making files, I guess, and one file led to another, and then I was, from from images and sounds, and then like photography to video to then 3D video, and then like different forms are coming in, like 360 video and stereoscopic video. And there came a point where it was like, all right, am I going to pursue art, or am I going to pursue like serious business work where like creating scripts that do Excel sheet stuff, and like, which way do I want to take this? Like, I can go both, and it's kind of at a cross point. And my thing when I was in the Air Force was that, like, I went in and I had an ASVAB score of 99. So like I could choose anything basically. And it was a really weird spot to be, because I didn't really think of it like that when I was 18. I just sort of thought like, cool, so which one can I leave in first? And I just picked the first job that was out there, and it was like mechanic. And I was like, all right, cool. Well, I guess I'm going to get good with my hands. And this long journey around with technology kind of made it so that like VR is now the way I interact with the way I make files. So it's like I finally get to use my hands in like a more physical sense to create the art pieces that are in some ways like not even creatable if you try to do them in 2D. Because if you're working on a 2D monitor to try to express some of the movements that you naturally flow with when you just spin in a circle, moving your arms, it would take you so long that you just wouldn't do it. And animating is also tedious, but there's technologies now that we have in VR that like allow us to create basically illustrated animations in 3D using our space to create stuff and to tell stories and to engage audiences and to educate viewers. And so in my world where I came from, they used to be like, oh shit, I should get into this industry and start studying it, because my last 3 years that I was there, I was teaching as an instructor of mechanics. And I thought like, if I could show someone with a VR instruction, like this is what inside of an engine looks like, it would save me so much time, and there would be so like a little vague space for error, or a place where someone could get injured, or it could put lives at risk if an injury, or if an error happens in an engine and you find out in mid-flight that there was a problem. So little things like that seem very key to the future of safety and putting people's lives in better situations when they're on an aircraft. So to me, that was like hugely just like a point of inspiration. But then coming into the side of like, okay, but like computer-based training is really boring if it's not done artfully. Like if it's not turned into like as good as a YouTube video or a video game or something that you're just expecting to like get for free on like an app store, like then good luck getting an engaged adult to really take your training seriously. And so for me, that was kind of like the point of departure. And I was like, okay, that's my North Star, and I'm going to chase it. So I've been at that for like 7 years now, and just kind of making no money and just sort of floating and coasting off of what I could and what I have. And so it's been a super transition from like 10 years of super just steady prosperity and just understanding like, all right, cool, I'm in the military. Everything is covered. Like I'm good. My healthcare, good. Everything good. Like there was no worries except like, just the day-to-day staying safe. But beyond that, this became this new way of connecting with the world. This art form became like a way of exploring conversations like these, but then also the points that these conversations go into tangents with when they start talking about like the classics, when they start saying, well, have you ever read this book? Or have you ever seen this piece of art? Or have you ever seen how this new artist popping up is kind of playing on this other thing that's like a classic from like centuries ago? Like it starts opening up your world in different ways. And so that I thought like the Web3 world and the way the collectors have really sort of curated certain conversations in their spaces like these has been just like exponentially beneficial to everything I've ever like studied in any way. Like I've gone to school and I've been in different like training institutes and places where it's all about, getting education out to as many people and disseminating it in mass. But there's nothing like whatever Twitter Spaces has become, and the way that people are just taking the power to lead their own conversations. That has just been mind blowing. So for that, I just wanted to thank everybody in this panel, and I just wanted to first get all that out because I couldn't go on and ask anything else without first thanking you guys and just really, really kind of like sending you guys flowers. So my one question though, Klutch, if you have kind of a moment to maybe weigh in on this, and everybody else too, but specifically Klutch, with your experience, I'm curious. Have you seen anybody who's currently doing some sort of like educational VR, what would you call it, like experience or like a presentation that is currently like piqued your interest and thought like that was cool, I want something like that in ClickCreate?
I have not personally. I would say, I'm just kind of a little skeptical on VR glasses still. Like I've owned multiple ones, and it's like it feels cool. It's like this nice little novelty thing, but there's very few people I know who are like, "Yep, I'm gonna go home and get my VR, spend a lot of time there tonight." They do it like for a little bit. When it's really cool, they go buy their VR goggles or whatever. They get into it, but it doesn't last yet for most users. So I haven't invested a lot of time or energy into that space outside of just playing some of the basic games.
Awesome. Yeah, that's kind of the perspective I've seen too. I recently just got the Meta Quest, the new one with the pancake lenses, and I realized that even this one, as it's improved with like getting into it. Like I really only spend as much time as I do in it because I use it for work and it saves me hours in Blender. But as a commercial product yet, it's still, I haven't really found a lot of reasons or a lot of ways that I can get like everyday people to jump on it and be like, oh, try it out. And they're just like, cool, I'm sick now. I was like, oh, my bad.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of people are hoping obviously Apple with their version is going to help, right? And it becomes like, to me, it's like a thing like, how do you make this so it actually can reach mass adoption level? And maybe augmented reality of some sort can get there. But like for now, everything that's currently out is just not there. I don't think people want to spend their life actually in a headset. Like you can watch that movie. What's the movie?
Ready Player One.
Yeah, that one, right? And like it sounds cool. It sounds like a cool place to get away from, but you don't want to live your whole life there yet. It's just at least not yet. I don't know. Maybe someday they will, but not today. And to be honest, like what's booming in the economy right now is most of the economy is not great at the moment, right? Like retail and stuff is down, but everybody is spending money on experiences and dinners and things like that. That's where a lot of people's expenses are going at the moment because everybody got trapped in their house for 2 years during COVID, right? So now everybody wants to get out and hang out with their friends in real life. So I think that desire is stronger now than it probably normally is because people are like, I'm not doing that shit again. I want to go hang out with my friends. Like, so that's what I see around me anyway.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so then this is where I wanted to ask the question. From that perspective, how do you think these digital experiences and our digital items that we can sell are kind of coming together? Like hanging out with a friend, like now that we can, and like maybe having like a board night or like just cooking and just hanging out watching like, I don't know, a new video game that dropped and you're going to play it in the same room. Like something like that. Like how do you feel like these NFTs and digital collectibles are weaving their way into these real events in real like actual conversations that are happening with like friends and close family now?
Oh, I fully believe we are going to all have screens in our house, like dedicated screens, not your TV that you'll occasionally put the thing on, right? Like I think people will have dedicated screens. And it's crazy right now because you look at these things and it seems crazy expensive, and then you go into like your local Walmart and you see the same screen for like a third the price, right? And you're just like, wait, why is that so much? But over time, I think that will solve itself, and I think people will have that. They'll have dedicated screens, and it'll become like a thing. Like people are excited to show off their stuff. I just bought this thing. I just bought that thing. Whatever. They're always excited to have something to show off, and that's why people collect a lot of things, right? No matter what it is, they want to show it off and be like, and have other people say, "Wow, that's really cool." So I think that'll happen in your house with digital art.
Wanted to quickly just jump in real quick. One of the things that I've seen is AR, like art, like augmented reality, and in some of these festivals, I think at Art Basel, if you guys are aware of Eka, I believe she's going to be there, but she's been like sending like an app that you can essentially download, and then you can see her piece wherever you are. I think that stuff's pretty cool in terms of like VR. No VR headsets, but just using your phone.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I think with web apps becoming more prevalent, that'll become a bigger thing. But it's still something like, it's more of a novelty at the moment to me. People just don't utilize it that much. In my e-commerce business, a few years back, everybody was trying to, I sell home goods. So like people are trying to make a lot of these web apps where you could like basically try on the thing in your house, right? And everybody was like, this is going to be the thing, right? Like, oh, you want to get that, whatever, that sofa? Here, open this thing up and you can place it in your room and it's going to be huge. And then e-commerce companies were like, yeah, this is going to be how we're going to sell more. And it turns out nobody used that stuff. Not at all. People built all these things and then people just did not want to use it. It was so that's my experience with it. Like, it's just not there yet. And I don't know, maybe it's a generational thing too, right? Like maybe our kids that'll be their first go-to, right? Like you can talk to your parents and they'll ask you a silly question and you'll be like, have you Googled it? And they'll be like, oh, and you just be like, yeah, okay. So like we've all been trained now, you could just Google it, right? But we haven't been trained yet as like, oh, well, you could just go throw it in your room with this augmented reality thing yet. And I don't know if our generation, however old you are, but all of us right now, say from like 20 to 50, I don't know how much we're going to do that. But maybe the kids who are now, maybe like my kids' age, maybe that'll just be like second nature to them. Who knows?
I want to jump in and thank you so much, Klutch, for taking the time. We are way over our time, our 1 hour mark, and I just want to apologize. And we're just so grateful for your time. I don't know if we have time to take all the questions. I know Klutch has a busy schedule, and so I want to apologize on our behalf for taking so much time. But for all the friends that have requested to come up, I'm so sorry. That we're not going to keep taking requests. I don't know, Klutch, if we should take the ones that are still on stage.
We could take them. Let's take these two, and then we can call it or whatever.
Okay, I thank you so much for your time. I think next we had Anastasia. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for bringing me up and for the opportunity to speak and to ask. Hello, Klutch, and hello, everyone. I think this is the first time that I'm speaking with you, Fidel, and everyone. So, you are talking about the real world and stuff, and I just came up with one question, like as an artist. I'm an artist. And I'm thinking about that for some time already. I want to ask, what is the most, like the greatest maybe value for you? Like, do you differentiate between digital art and traditional art? And do you think that traditional art uploaded to NFT and having like a man-made original is more valuable regardless of quality? But and would you be interested in buying art that is painted on canvas and has the original like canvas with canvas, but redrawn in digital and uploaded to NFT, processed digitally? Like uh, to looks like better in the digital world. So yeah, this is my question. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks. I personally like. I would have more. I would apply more value to something if I knew I was also going to get the physical. I do love painting. I own a piece by Zuck, Zhuk. She's a pretty well known painter. It's from, I can't remember where she's from. Somewhere in Europe though. And there's a piece I own from her where I've always been like, man, I would love to have the physical. But I know she has it up in her apartment and she loves it too. So I've never like tried to be like, hey, can I please have the physical? But I would love to have it because I would instantly put it up in my house, no question. But that doesn't mean like I don't need that to be a part of the piece. Like I still loved the piece. I bought the piece before I had any clue what her relationship with the physical was. She's even done some things where she painted a piece and then she turned it into the digital and then she painted over the piece, symbolic, or to basically ruin the piece, right? To now say like it only lives online in a digital format. And the original no longer exists. And I thought that was cool. That was cool showmanship. But, I think I would just say with something like that, you could definitely experiment around with it. Like, or you could ask your collectors, do you want the physical or whatever? Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. I just was interested about this, because I have a lot of like experience when people want the physical, and this is the most important. But like no matter of the quality of this physical, but yeah, and I'm asking like about that as well. So yeah, thank you. I think I understand, and yeah, I think the most like important part for everyone, like collectors or like people, that you need to be connected with the art itself, and there's no like, and it's no matter like physical it's or digital or anything. Maybe.
Thank you, Anastasia. Next, we have Morale. Hello. Hi, Morale. Welcome to the stage. Did you have a question for Klutch?
No, sorry. I wanted to chime in earlier on the AR stuff because I have been seeing it a lot with some artists, and they're like utilizing that tech, not necessarily VR, but just the AR stuff with their phones, and like you can kind of go anywhere and show it off, stuff like that. But he went over it, so I'm all set now. Thank you, though.
Thank you. Thank you. Klutch, any last words as we're saying our goodbyes for the day, for the space?
No, just thank you guys for having me. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in Miami. For those who don't know, we are doing a co-sponsored event in Miami. And if you are here and do believe in this space for the long term, that's the one thing I would recommend to you is like, what are you going to take away from this? To me, the best thing is the people. You make great friends in this space if you really try to. So if you have an opportunity to go to an NFT event, I would highly recommend it because that is the single best place to meet all these great people. And I think you'll find the whole space is much more rewarding when you make those relationships just a little stronger. And it's so easy to do in person, way easier to do in person. So that would be my recommendation.
Such a great suggestion. For those that don't know, we are joining the ClickCreate team as well as the Shriller team to put on a Miami meetup. We just posted on top here, so you can have more information about the event. At the moment, there's a waiting list, but just sign up. You never know, you might just get in. And so we invite you to join. Klutch, you are an absolutely joy to be with, an absolute joy to be with, to hang with, but also to speak. Your wisdom and knowledge goes way beyond our years. And we're just so grateful for your friendship, but also for your wisdom. Thank you for your time. You have been so great to us and so flexible. So we're just so grateful. A big thanks to Fidel, our guest co-host. Thank you so much for joining.
Yay!
Yay. Fidel
Stop it.
joined us as we were at a Lisbon NFT shingding that really blew up. We had towards the end of that live event was closer to 100 guests, and that was wild to us. We were just so happy. Fidel, you are an absolute joy as well. Your heart towards the community, the same as Klutch. You guys share the same sentiment, and we're just so honored to be able to join with people like Fidel and Klutch to build community, and we're here all about community. So Paul, a team member to our Light.Art and Llamo Art Foundation, thank you so much. For those going to Miami, make sure you stop by and say hello. If you do not follow Klutch, Fidel, or Paul, please take the time to do so right now. On our chat box lives all the conversation that you guys have had throughout our time together. So stay tuned. If you want to keep this conversation going, ask questions, and keep this rolling, join us in our Discord for more information. With that said, thank you for your time. We're so grateful that you have been with us. And with that said, have a great rest of your Tuesday.